Hello, welcome to our live. V, thank you. Thank you. Welcome to our live. Just a minute and quickly, let's just go to the podcast. I see people planning to join us. Thank you. If you're here, we're happy to have you. Thank you. Thank you. So, we have to keep up. If you're on YouTube or on Instagram, you're welcome. Tonight, we are discussing about medical tests. I know that a lot of us tend to see medical tests as something we do when we are critically ill. But for some time now, we have learned that there are things like being proactive on your health, and the medical test is one of these steps you can take to protect yourself and prevent yourself. It's a form of preventive as well as what you do when you're already ill. And when we talk about medical tests or neurodivergent population, it has a lot of functions. If you are just joining us, my name is Ijoma. I am an autism nutritionist, meaning that I am a nutritionist and I support neurodivergent population using nutrition. I am also a food technologist and a public health practitioner. So I put together all that I am and all that I have to support neurodivergent population, neurodivergent individuals. So tonight we are talking about medical tests. So in the course of my practice, which I've been doing for the past 10 years, I have met parents who tend to feel that they do not need medical tests to proceed especially when you talk about something like food allergy is they quickly tell you that a child or a boy has no allergy or whatever, and they do not react to any food, that they are perfectly okay. But tonight we are learning that medical tests is like going on a journey without a map. Not having medical tests is like going on a journey without a map. Imagine setting out from your home to visit a friend whom you have never visited before. You don't know where he or she lives. You don't know the way to the place, which is the case with our children, even divergent children. You have no idea where that friend lives. But you need to visit the friend. In this case, you need to get to the root of your child's condition. And then you just set out. Then you move like 2 miles away and you see somebody turning left, and then you just turn left. And then by the time you get to like 2 miles again, you see somebody going in front at the roundabout, and you just go in front at the roundabout. And then you move like 2 miles again and you see somebody turning right, and then you turn right. And in case you do not know, this story is exactly what a lot of parents with neurodivergent children do. You go to a conference and then you see a presentation that says um, something like chelation helped my child to feel better. And then you go home, get to look, what is chelation? How do they do it? And then you go and you start. And down the line, you don't even know what's chelating, you don't even know the science behind chelation, and then you just do it. And then down the line again, you go to another conference and you see you met a parent, and then the parent say, oh, we just started taking gluten free food and casein free food, and by the 3 months my child is no longer hyperactive, my child is talking, and my child can do everything. And then you go home, and then you pack all the food from your pantry and discard them because they are not gluten free, because they are not casein free. A lot of parents go as far as trying to remove gluten, casein, everything that has sugar, everything that is everything, and then you end up having a 2-year-old, a 3-year-old, a 4-year-old eating only butter. Now, this is exactly how you are if you are that parent that has not done your medical tests. Going back to the answer, medical test is like a roadmap. When I say a roadmap, it's like you having a clear map of where you are going. You want to get a child who is no longer sensitive to food, or who should be eating all food types like most children do. And you need a map to get to that destination. You want to have a child who is no longer hyperactive, who can sit down in class and listen to his or her teachers like a lot of children do. You need a map to get to that destination of a calm child who can understand instructions. You want a child who do not sleep at night, and you need a map to lead you to that destination where you will find that child that will sleep at 8 p.m. and wake up by maybe 6 a.m. You want a child who is verbal and aware of his or her environment. I tell you, you need a map to lead you to that destination where you will find a child who is verbal and attentive. Now, what is that one? Medical test. Medical test is like a map. It's your GPS that you could queue in your destination and then find out how to get there. But when it comes to neurodivergent children, a lot of times we make a lot of mistakes when it comes to their own medical test because what they require for medical test is not just like you and I walking into a laboratory and requesting for blood work, sometimes malaria, parasite, sometimes typhoid fever, and sometimes, just basic tests. No, that is not what we require. I used to tell parents that because what has come to us is not ordinary, a lot of times our approach is also not ordinary. So tonight, I am going to start by listing the most relevant tests that neurodivergent children ought to get to show us where we need to go with them. The one and very important one for me as a nutritionist, because a lot of times when views are being made, you make it based on your own point of view. So from my own point of view, I regard food allergy test as very important test because it is food allergy test that will show you the kind of foods that your child is allergic to or not. Sometimes it also shows you if your child has developed a certain antibodies to a particular food or not. And if you must know, your child must not show the allergy. Like it must not start to scratch their body or cause swelling or any other symptom for you to identify it that your child is reacting to it. A lot of times for neurodivergent children, this presumed allergy is caused by a leaky gut. When a child has a leaky gut, you realize that the food, instead of being digested through the walls of the stomach, can actually just get into the bloodstream. For neurodivergent children, they can react to this in two different ways. They can either stop eating that food and refuse to have it, or they can choose to be eating only that food. Let me tell you why they may choose to eat only that food. They may choose to eat only that food because each food has a population of microbiome, like a population of microorganisms that are peculiar to them. So if he has consumed that food enough to populate his microbiome with the kind of microorganisms that are found in that food, it is those microorganisms that will continue to request that he consumes that food. And when this happens, you find your child wanting to eat only one particular food. Of course, this is not good for them. They need variety as much as possible. They need variety in their diet. So if your child is consuming only one particular food, if your child is picky eating, if your child is over consuming a particular food that maybe not only one but is fond of eating one particular food, you may want to consider testing for the antibodies in the system. How it works with neurodivergent children is that a lot of times we recognize this not as true allergies because by the time we go into gut healing, we see a lot of children beginning to accept those foods they were not accepting before. And a lot of them will stop reacting to those foods they were refusing before. So in this case, we say that these are not really true allergies. and it does not warrant that you remove that food totally from the child's diet. What we do is that when we see this kind of foods, we encourage the parents to keep it in their meal plan and be trying it at intervals of 3 months. So after 3 months, you can try those foods we have included in their meal plan and see if they will be able to tolerate them. That is just one. So right now we have discussed food allergy tests. So in food allergy tests, we see antibodies that the body has developed towards foods that have somehow gotten into the bloodstream, and then we know how intense they are, and then we identify them, and then we know where and when to place it in their meal plans. So you wouldn't need to remove that thing entirely from their diet, because to be honest with you, they need a lot of these foods. Then that is food allergy test. The next one I would like to discuss is the organic acid test. Organic acid test is also something that is a bit similar to food allergy, but not just on food antibodies. They kind of identify a lot of organic acids and byproducts of the tablets in the body. What happens in organic acid test is that with organic acid test, we can even identify some genetic problems. Genetic problems when we talk about inborn errors of metabolism. When a person has an inborn error of metabolism, it means that naturally, genetically, that person will not be able to utilize that nutrient. So a lot of times what we see is an accumulation of that nutrient in the child's body. And some of these organic acids also may not necessarily be as a result of inborn errors of metabolism. Some of them are just there because they are they are not being well utilized. And guess what? A lot of these organic acids can indicate very serious conditions. Let us take for instance, in the test of a child, we identify a particular organic acid, and what this organic acid indicates is that that child is prone to intellectual disability if they continue feeding that child with that food, because what that organic acid indicates is that the child cannot utilize certain types of protein like tryptophan, like lysine, that child will not be able to utilize those proteins. And if the parents continue feeding him with that protein, the the higher accumulation of that organic acid can lead to intellectual disability in that child. And with the presence of that organic acid test, it is also telling us that even though protein is usually recommended for children because they are growing, this particular child is not supposed to be consuming a lot of protein in his diet. He's not supposed to be consuming a lot of meat, a lot of beans, a lot of milk. Whatever has protein should be offered this child in a very small and controlled quantity. That same organic acid is telling us that this child is not converting energy properly from the food he's eating, and therefore he's having issues with his fine motor skills. So we see a child who is not able to hold pen. We see a child who is not able to digest food properly. Those are the issues we have with children with fine motor skills. And we actually say that there is a mitochondrial dysfunction. So if a child has mitochondrial dysfunction, what we notice physically is that the child cuts when you give them pen to write, they cry, they don't want to hold pen. And when you give the child food to chew, the child does not want to chew. The child does not cannot chew. It's not like they don't want, but The muscles are not there to chew. Some of them actually are constipated, not because the food is the excreta is not there, but because the muscles of the rectal muscles, are not strong enough to expand and contract to be able to bring out the excreta. You see a child where even if they are not constipated, if you watch their stool, you see pieces of whole food. Number one, because they did not chew properly. Number two, because their stomach linings were not able to churn. They were not able to move enough to break down the pieces of food. And do you know the implications of all of this? The implications is that if the child is not even getting enough nutrients, because even the food that he's been eating is not being digested. So, and what it, because okay, there is not enough surface area to volume ratio of food to chemicals to be able to break it down and release the nutrients. And you can already see the other aspects where you have constipation, inability to write, inability to chew, inability to digest food, inability to do other things that require muscular activities. And that is because the mitochondria is not converting energy effectively, is not converting food effectively to energy. So such children, you may want to be providing them food at like very short intervals. You have to be giving them food. Some of them, they even require that when they are going to bed, you have to place like something like cookie beside table so that when they wake up, they should be able to chew it. And how do we find all of this? Through medical tests, through organic acid tests. So organic acid test is like a princess. I would call it king, but it's like a princess when it comes to medical tests. So we have discussed food allergy tests, and then we have discussed organic acid tests. The very next one that a lot of people tend to overlook is stool analysis. Why a lot of people may want to overlook stool analysis is that the efficacy is usually dependent on where you did the test. I have seen tests done locally and I've seen tests done internationally. In international tests, we see a lot of things. We see the parasitic condition, we see the inflammatory condition, we see physical condition, we see whether there are things in the stool or not. We see a whole lot. There is actually a child, if you watch one of our videos where a woman was saying that brain food saved their child's mental health. That particular child, every other test came clean. He had no allergies, he had no elevated organic acid test, he had no mental toxicity. But his two tests told us that he has inflammatory bowel condition. And if you watch that video, you will see how the child's life turned around immediately we started intervention, telling you that in this case again, medical test has proven itself to be a roadmap to that child's health. So in this case, we are saying that stool analysis is the kind of test that will help you to see the condition, the gut condition of your child. Remember, you can see if the child is having inflammation. You can see if the child is having, maybe some children may have blood in their stool. Some children may have mucus in their stool. So having mucus in the stool is also a way we know, it can also give us an idea of microbial activities in the gut. So that is two tests for you. But there is this other one we've been talking about. We talked about it last week. If you remember what it is, you can chip it in. If you're on YouTube or in Instagram, you can write it if you remember what we discussed last week. Last week, let me not take your time. We discussed about heavy metal toxicity. So if by going to what we discussed last week, you can look at our video on our channel, Brain Food for Thought, on YouTube. If you go there, you will see that last week we had it's a live recording of heavy metal toxicity. Heavy metal toxicity, as we saw last week, can present in so many ways. It can present in sleeplessness, it can present in confusion, it can present in hyperactivity, it can present in God's dysbiosis, which is where I say that they provide a kind of protection for bad bacteria. So when there are heavy metal toxicity in the body of a neurodivergent child, you get to see a whole lot. You see a child who cannot concentrate. You see a child who is confused. You see a child who is hyperactive. You see a child who cannot sleep at night. You see a child who is not even aware of his environment. These are all the different ways that heavy metal toxicity can present in children. We know that a lot of times you may test for heavy metal toxicity. In international tests, we test for heavy metal toxicity as well as nutrient elements like your copper, your zinc, your magnesium. You know that these are nutrients. But things like mercury, like lead, like cadmium, like aluminium, these are heavy metals. So, but locally, they will ask you that which one do you want. So they will test, you will just select few because it is not cheap. So we will just select things like lead, mercury, cadmium, and just maybe four or three and ask them to test. But if you test a whole the heavy metal panel, you will see that when one is high, when one bad one is high, one good one is down. When one bad one is very high, one good one is down. Meaning that when you also have heavy metal toxicity, you can have nutrient deficiency because they are synergistic in action. So a lot of times, if you have heavy metal toxicity in a child, be ready to see a child who is also presenting with nutrient deficiency. And what are we doing? We want to get as much nutrients into these children for them to be able to function mentally. So heavy metal toxicity does not just aggravate behavioral symptoms, they also aggravate sleep issues, they also aggravate microbial issues, they also aggravate nutritional issues. So by going through a medical test that shows you the heavy metal toxicity profile of your child, you are putting a step in that map. Remember we said it's like a map. So in this map, you have to get to a point where you are looking at nutrient elements. You have to get to a map where you are looking at allergy profile. You have to get to a map where you are looking at organic acid profile of your child, where we say you can also identify inborn errors of metabolism. On this map, you get to a point where you'll be looking at heavy metal profile of your child. So I hope this is making sense that at every point in your map, you are, covering a distance to your destination. So we have looked at that allergy, food allergy. We have looked at organic acid test. We have looked at heavy metal toxicity, and what else? We have looked at stool analysis. So in stool analysis, you get to see what's going on in the guts. In organic acid test, you get to see what is happening all over the body as a byproduct of metabolism. In food allergy, you get to see how the body is accepting or rejecting the food you are giving your child. And in heavy metal toxicity, you get to see how environmental assault has been able to accumulate in the bodies of your children. But do you know what is very peculiar about heavy metal toxicity? Is that a lot of children, a lot of neurodivergent children have what we call MTHFR gene mutation. And people that have this gene mutation find it really difficult to detoxify their system. And if you go to one of our videos where we talked about forever chemicals, where we talked about things like non-stick pans and non-stick PFAs, you will see that we also mentioned there that children, neurodivergent children, find it difficult to detoxify. So the case with this heavy metal is that you may want to argue that you don't know anybody with any case of heavy metal around you. You don't even live near any industrial area. You don't even know any mining site. But I tell you, heavy metals these days can come from your cooking pots, they can come from household utensils, they can come from cosmetics, they can come from the air, they can come from the water you drink. Please, if you are interested, please go to that our video and watch everything we say. We also have a blog post on it. You will see our blog post where we elaborated on heavy metal toxicity, the impact on your health, and especially the impact on the neurodivergent child. So, these are four tests we have discussed tonight, but there are more. There is also a test. These ones we have discussed are like what I tell people are like the basics. There are more tests. There are tests like vitamin D. There are tests like omega-3 profile. There are tests like we call it toxicant non-metal. Toxicant non-metal. I'm giving you example with Nigeria now. In Nigeria, I have done lots of tests for children that even if you cover the names and location of a child today and bring the test like this, by looking at the test, I will tell you which part of the country the child resides in. Because we have seen that children that live around Port Harcourt, oh my God, the kind of things we see in the toxicity non-metal tests is very alarming. You see all sorts of plastic residues, you see all sorts of petrochemical residues, you see all sorts of environmental toxicants that are as a result of industrial activities going on in and around Port Harcourt. And when we see the result of children that live in Lagos, we know because we tend to get more of glyphosate and agriculturally related chemicals in children that live in Lagos. I was beginning to wonder if it has to do with importation of food products, like all these new shops that are maybe like South African shops that are everywhere in Lagos. They import foods. I wouldn't know why, but Lagos children will get a lot of industrial agriculturally related chemicals in the blood, but children from Port Harcourt will get more of petroleum industrial activity related chemicals in the blood. So that is how it goes. And these tests, they are good because from these tests you can identify the kind of either supplements or activities you can do. A lot of times things like sauna baths, they do a lot of wonders because sweating is like a very important way to detoxify. We can also recommend things like Epsom salt baths, and then there are particular supplements you can actually use to tackle some of these toxicants. And the kind of supplements will naturally depend on the kind of toxicants that is found in the child's blood. So, going through medical tests tonight, I should reiterate that it is very important. As for me, it should be the first step any parent of a neurodivergent child should take. I would even say that with basic knowledge and working with a good professional, if you make a medical test, if you do a good medical test and you see someone who will give you a good interpretation, as a neurodivergent, as a parent to a neurodivergent child, you should be able to work with your child to a very large extent. You won't be in the dark. People will not be telling you things that you do not know because you would have seen this is from my child's body, this were tested from his body, this is where he stands today. And then in 6 months, in 1 year, in 2 years, you can repeat the test and you see where the child is going, where your intervention is going, and what is happening inside your child's body. Honestly, just to be honest with you, I think medical tests should be your first step if you are ready to tackle the challenges of your neurodivergent child. If you want to start, please look for a healthcare professional, do a high quality test. I know why I'm saying high quality test because a lot of times I understand the finances are not always available. But a lot of times, a lot of parents opt for cheaper tests, and we know that even when we are making recommendations, we are doing this because we need to do it, not because we are fully, equipped to do it. But when we have a good quality test, we now will stand, strong and tell you this is what is happening, this is what you have to do. And believe me, if you do it, there's no way you will not see peculiar results with your child. Go and ask other parents. In fact, go and ask some of my parents that I don't know how I will give their names, but this is so real that you can't miss it. If you do a good quality test, there is no way you will not begin to see clear, you know, very clear changes in your child. So, dear parents, tonight I would ask any parents with a neurodivergent child, or even you as parents, they say what is good for kids is good for them. Even you as a parent, from time to time, do this test and you will understand what is happening to your body. Okay, there is one more test that I was amazed with what that test can do. I did that test for a child in Nigeria with SINLAB. This test is called Nutri Health. Nutri Health is a test that when you do this, it will use your genetic, it will show you the things you are genetically inclined to. What do I mean by this? This test will show you if you are capable of doing sports that are long term, like okay, if you will be able to run sprint or you will be able to run marathon. Like they will tell you how your endurance with sports is. This test will tell you if you are prone to alcohol, if alcohol is going to affect you negatively or not. This test will tell you if you are prone to fast aging, like if you are going to be aging faster than your age mates. Like there are people you see they are 40 but they look 50, there are people you see they are 30 but they look 12. So this test is going to tell you. And how you know that it is true is that from that aging, if you see that you're going to be aging fast, when you come down, you will also see that you are very prone to oxidation. So because oxidation is like synonymous to aging, you will see that this test will tell you if you are very prone to oxidation, and if you are prone to oxidation, from another part of the test you will realize that that test will also tell you that you are prone to fast aging. So and this test is going to tell you what kind of exercise that you have to do. So as a parent, if you do this test for your child, even when they are going to school, you should be able to identify the kind of exercise that child is going to do. I am planning to do this test for my son because we realize that even when he goes on pitch, he will just play for 2 minutes and he's so tired and weak. Even if you are working with him to clean the house or sweep, in a very short while he will bend down and be sweeping on his knees. So this kind of test is going to tell you if this child is actually lacking strength or if it's a child that can actually have a longer endurance for sports and then energy demanding activities. So I love this test because it kind of gives you a good picture of who your child is or who your child is going to be, and this is a form of a genetic test. And then using that, okay, for instance, using that we employ the right nutrition. For instance, if your child is prone to fast aging, we will recommend that even from little age you should not be exposing them to too much of saturated fatty acids. You should not be exposing them to activities that would make them undergo any form of oxidation. We will say if a particular groundnut is decaying, don't give it to this child because this child is prone to oxidation. We will say if you are cooking in your house, make sure you don't use maybe melon egusi that is machine peeled, because if you use the machine peel, they are already undergoing oxidation and your child is prone to oxidation. We will tell you if you are cooking in your house, please don't use any oil that is already having smell, because this is going to be affecting your child in a very big way that you will not even want to know. So if you do this test for a child of maybe 2 years or 3 years, you already have a very clear picture. Okay, the test also tells you if your child is prone to diabetes. The test tells you if your child is such that when they grow up, they are likely to have diabetes, insulin sensitivity. It will tell you how sensitive your child can be to insulin. So you understand the implication of this test. This kind of test will just, if it's me, I'll just laminate it and put in my in my fridge in the kitchen. So you are always like conscious of these are the things this child can. Not that we say we restrict people or tell them what to be in life, but it will help to guide you on the kind of things you should expose that child to, and the kind of things that when you see them, you run as fast as you can with your child. So, in my own opinion, and I've said it over and over again, if you are a parent with a neurodivergent child, please consider having a medical test the first thing before you embark on arrays of therapies and arrays of interventions and arrays of lots of things over there out there. Consider having a medical test and identify the things that need to be realigned in your child. Even when it is genetic, my friends, you can do it with food. We call it nutrigenomics. Nutrigenomics is using food to modify a genetic anomaly. You can use food to realign your genetics. And listen, it's not from me. The name is nutrigenomics. It's an English word. It means it is happening, it is real, it is possible. So I am still very passionate about food because of this. There is absolutely nothing that food cannot do. As long as you are still alive, food can do wonders for your health. As long as you are breathing, food is your raw material. And the bad thing is that it can be a poison and it can be a medicine at the same time. So you just need that support, that little support to show you the right way and the right thing. And my friend, you will be alright. It's been a wonderful evening. Remember, we have these tests, we have food allergy, we have organic acid, we have heavy metal, we have stool analysis, we have uh, non-heavy metal toxicity, we have nutri health, we have vitamin D, we have cholesterol, we have omega-3 profile. These are all tests that have been identified to be relevant to neurodivergent children. You may begin to ask, how do we get these tests? For the next 5 minutes, I would like to tell you that Brain Foods is a company in Nigeria, but we have partners in the UK, we have partners in the US. We have these high profile laboratories where well researched and well known, well renowned, that we help our clients. We get the kits from the laboratories, we help our clients to get the samples, and we have very special relationship with DHL, and they help us to return those kits to the lab. You don't need to live in the US for you to be able to access laboratory tests in the US. You don't need to be a resident of the UK for you to be able to access laboratory tests in the UK. We are here to do it for you. Just contact us and the rest will be history. And I'm very happy a lot of parents are coming up to do this test. Only 2 weeks now, we have like 4 families sending their tests to the United States of America from Nigeria. So you don't have any excuse anymore. Approach us, we will not just help you do the test, we will help you to interpret it, and will help you to make a good meal plan to reflect whatever the test has identified in your neurodivergent child. That is our job. Don't worry about it. We are experts and we are working with the best. Always and in every way for the good of our children. Remember, I have one too. So whatever I do for my child, you are sure you are getting the best also. Thank you so much. It's been a good evening. 47 minutes and we stayed for an hour. If you missed anything at all, the video will be on our YouTube channel under lives. You will see it under live. How medical tests can change your life. Believe me, it can change your life as long as you're still alive. We have seen a lot of things in medical tests. We have seen things, and immediately we bring in intervention. We always see a better child, a more active child, a more attentive child, a more, a child who is more alive, very active, and, thriving. Thank you once again, and give us a call. We are there for you. Have a lovely evening. Bye.